So let's elevate our thoughts to our Almighty Father, always here, everywhere, with His infinite justice, His infinite mercy, sending us mentors in order to teach us the laws of nature, so that it gives us the opportunity to put us in adequation with these laws, which means to progress towards happiness, towards God. This is the main reason why we are gathered today to study this medium book left by our dear Allan Kardec. May we understand these teachings, put them into practice, apply them when the opportunities are presenting, and may also these readings be helpful for the spirits which are with us during this lesson today. So be it.
So be it.
So I do not see the... yes, no, I see the participants. Okay. So can you see the screen properly? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
261. So we are in the section identity of spirits. How do we make sure a communication which comes with a name and a signature is really from that signature, if that signature is real or is fake? One could certainly say that if a spirit can imitate a signature, it can also imitate a language. Yes. So in the previous point, we have seen that the spirits, they can just, they want to sign Jesus, they will sign Jesus. They want to sign God, they will sign God. They don't come with their ID cards or with a finger prints or whatever. So we are never sure, and even the fact that they sign with a name does not constitute proof of identity, or that they are really the one which is signing. So Kardec told, as we have seen last week, the signature is not enough. You have to analyze the message itself, in particular the language, and also the content of the message. And because the signature can be imitated. So this is what we are continuing now. One could say that if a spirit can imitate a signature, it can also imitate language. That is true, says Kardec. We have seen those who ignominiously assume the name of Christ, and for an even better deception, imitate his evangelical style by indulging in well-known expressions such as, verily, verily, I say to you. If we would study the writing without allowing ourselves to be influenced, however, deeply scrutinizing the thoughts and the character of the expressions, and noticing that alongside the beautiful maxims of charity, there are puerile and ridiculous recommendations, we would have to be completely fascinated to be fooled. So, analyze the language is one thing. Verily, verily, I say to you, okay, this looks like Jesus. But verily, verily, I say to you, and then comes a sentence which makes no sense. For sure, it is not Jesus, okay? So again, Kardec is here advising, deeply scrutinizing the thoughts and the character of the expressions, okay? Because those spirits, they can even make copy-paste of the gospel, they can make copy-paste of Kardec, they can make copy-paste of Bezerra de Menezes or whoever, in order to induce us in mistake, to show what they in reality are not. So, but of course, when it is copy-paste of Kardec, copy-paste of gospel and so on, okay, you take it, nothing new, but it's always good remembering those things. But then if in the middle there is a sentence completely wrong, then you say, aha, okay. You know, the black wolf is showing the white, how to say this, leg. But at the end, you see his another part of his body which is black. So a bad spirit can never imitate and up to the end. And this is somehow also linked to the fact that these critics of the church saying that all these messages are coming from the evil. And Kardec is commenting, yes, but then the evil is not working for his business. He's encouraging charity, he's encouraging goodness, he's encouraging faith in God and so on. So you can recognize through such type of advices, it would be a nonsense, the evil coming with such sentences. Munir?
Oh, hi, Charles. Hi, everyone. Yes, this bit of the text here reminded me of a character here in Curitiba. There is a guy, he's called Henry Christ. He dresses like Jesus. He looks like Jesus. He walks around saying that he's the reincarnation of Jesus, or Jesus who came back. And so I'm not sure if he's just impersonating or he believes he is Jesus himself. But I think that if a guy like him returns to spirit, goes to a medium, and presents himself as Jesus, then, he would use verily, verily, I say to you, and whichever, imitation of the way Jesus used to speak. And for those who are not prepared to, analyze the content of the message and everything, they may be fooled. In the same way that perhaps some people now believe, because he's been doing that for years and years, and some people take him seriously, and, some people see him as an impersonation of Jesus, but I believe that he thinks he's, the incarnation of Jesus. Mm-hmm. So if we see someone next to us who is like that, what to say about those in spirit?
Exactly, yeah. And when you study manipulators, what are the techniques of manipulation so that you can recognize them soon and not fall in their traps? But one of the techniques of manipulation is exactly the manipulator says to you 5, 6, 7, 8 things which are true, which may be obvious, but which are true. So inconsciently, you somehow put some trust in him because he's saying true things. And then we sell you 10 true things, and the 11th one is false, because he conquered your trust with the 10 truths. He has more chance to cheat you with the 11th one, which then is not true anymore, and which generally is interest as per his particular interest. So this is one of the techniques of manipulation that is perfectly known also by the spirits. They will make you copy-paste of Gospel, Kardec, Chico, Xavier, whatever, and then come with their ideas, which are completely wrong, or opposite to those. So deeply scrutinizing, always be aware, never taking anything for granted, for casting concrete or absolute truth because it's coming from the spirit or because there is a nice signature. This is the only way to avoid this type of manipulations. And even sometimes they, for instance, with predictions, the spirits come and give a prediction. You will not know if the prediction is true or not until the time where the prediction should occur is coming. So what did Kardec do in those cases? He had a binder where he was putting all the predictions inside. This is what we found in the document that appeared in 2018. He had a binder, predictions. And then when you look in this binder, there are a lot of predictions about the king, about the war, about Italy, about this, about that. And he was just putting them there, awaiting confirmation of not, or multiplication of the same prediction, or any other sign to give a little bit more credibility to those. And I can tell you, in those binders that we found, there were a lot of wrong predictions that did not occur at all. So this is the care Kardec took in order to avoid precipitedly publishing things which could then jeopardize the image of the Spiritist body of knowledge. Okay. Yes, certain are fascinated here. We have three fascinations in the obsession. Of course, when you are fascinated, you lose this capacity to scrutinize the thoughts, because by being fascinated, you trust somehow automatically. And this is why, seen from outside, someone which is fascinating is sometimes defending some ideas which are completely crazy. Voilà. Alors, yes, certain formal aspects of language can be imitated, but not of thought. Okay? You can imitate the language, but not the thought. It means the content. Ignorance will never imitate the true wisdom, just as vice will never imitate true virtue. Okay? The spirit will eventually show its true colors. That is when the medium and the evoker must use all their discernment and reasoning to separate the truth from the lie. You see here, he's talking about discernment and reasoning. A lot of times we say, oh, you should not judge, you should be open-minded, you should be this, you should be that. Yes, we should be, but also not blind. We need to find the right balance between both. And discernment is something which is absolutely indispensable nowadays, not only to analyze mediumistic messages we receive, but in the life in general, seeing whatever is published in the social medias or showing on the TV or in the newspaper or wherever. I have a friend is saying, no, it's true because I read it. Only because you read it, it's true. Don't you think that sometimes the people can write things which are not true? So we need this discernment. Without this discernment nowadays, we are lost completely. And this is also what we should teach to our children through education. Alors, they must persuade themselves, the medium and invoker, that perverse spirits are capable of all sorts of fraud, and that the more elevated the name a spirit uses, the more distrust it should arouse. You see? A message signed Jesus, it needs absolutely to be very high elevated content. If it's Saint Jesus and it's blah blah, or if some ambiguous idea or whatever, put it aside, or even throw it to the bin immediately. Liz?
Hi all. I think it is with the point that was made by you, Charles, about discernment, and especially nowadays. And then I come to bring also that you can only have discernment, and the right kind of one, when we really know what is right and what is wrong. And for us as mediums, I think we need to kind of all the time reflect about those things, because they are the ones who are going to give us the parameters, the guidelines for us to be able to discern between one thing and the other. So it's very important, just kind of call the attention here to this, what is right and what is wrong, because today as well, like you said, Charles, not only regarding mediumship and the messages that we receive, but in everyday life, we we have more and more seen like people with a very blurred line on what is right and what is wrong. So this is the danger that, me personally are seeing today. So all the time it's very important for us to reflect exactly on that. There is no blurred line between what is right and what is wrong. What is wrong? Wrong is wrong, right is right. That's all the point that I should make.
You are totally right, Liz. Nevertheless, we discover the truth only little by little with our evolution, isn't it? Sometimes there are things that we think are true or we think are good, and that in reality are not. So this discernment comes with the time and with the evolution of thought. That's why Kardec is putting discernment and reasoning. So I talked about predictions. Predictions, it's typically an example. You cannot say if a prediction is true or not, because it will come in the future. You can only wait for it to happen or not, or to happen the opposite of the prediction, So this is why the discernment is one, but the reasoning is another one. Of course, I think I thank God every day having been in contact with the Spiritist body of knowledge, because in it, I think we have a lot of truth, and not the truth that I accepted blindly, far from that, but that I accepted exactly through the reasoning. Hey, what is writing here? Does this make sense or not? And then when as the first time I read the Spirit's book, at the end, I thought, cannot be. You have been cheated, because it seems so obvious to you that there must be a trap somewhere. That was exactly my reasoning, And then through the reasoning, so, okay, let's read it again, line by line. Now I have the total vision of it, in order to see whether there is an inconsistency somewhere or a contradiction and so on between one part of the book and another part of the book. And this was something like almost 40 years ago, and I'm still looking for contradictions today, using every day the reasoning. So the reasoning is absolutely necessary, because what can be true at one date can be something wrong or mistake later on. Just a simple example. When I was young, everybody was smoking. My father, my uncle were smoking, because it was considered good to smoke whatsoever. Then later on, the people started to have diseases, and the science evolved and showed the negative effect of smoking. And what was good at that time, considered good or acceptable at that time, is today clearly black on white written on the cigarette boxes. Smoking kills, So no, today, or you cannot say anymore, you don't know. But typically it's one example where the values have changed, and this comes through evolution and through the reasoning. Liz?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, these particular, spirits, manipulators, etc., particularly play with our emotions, because that's generally our weakest point, especially that of arrogance. And who are we to think that if Allan Kardec himself never received a message saying it was directly from Jesus Christ, who are we to think we're going to get one? What gives us the right to have such a message? That is the first warning. The other thing about predictions is you cannot ever give a precise prediction, because the future is always open. Therefore, if anybody gives a precise prediction, you dismiss it immediately, because there's always that chance that circumstances can arise, and because that's the law of the universe of free will, something particularly calamitous might be about to happen. But however, in the higher realms, things go on all the time, sometimes disguised as our weather, in order to, depending on the negativity on the planet or whatever, to prevent that happening. So people cannot give precise predictions for that reason. The future's always open.
You're totally right, Liz. I think the first remark you made, Kardec indeed received some messages signed Jesus Christ, but when he published them, he removed the signature. Or if he put the signature, he put a long comment. We have to be extremely careful by publishing a communication with such signature, and then explaining more or less what he's teaching us here in this section of the Spirit's book, you know. And the second thing with regards to prediction, sometimes the predictions are true, but we always have to be careful. This is why you dismiss it immediately. Okay, it's one way to protect ourselves against it, or like Kardec, put it in a folder somewhere and wait for confirmation. And I can give you an example that I lived personally. It's a person I know, which was going to her location of vacation, south of France. And when she was on the way, she saw like a huge wave of water, flooding and even killing a lot of people. So she just commented it to the person which were with her in the car. Oh, I have just seen that. Okay, now 1 week after, there was a big flooding exactly at that place, Vaison-la-Romaine, if the people who followed it. So the prediction was true. Now, the thing is, what is the use of such true prediction? If you go there and say, or go to the old camping place and people, you must immediately evacuate because there will be coming a flooding, everybody will laugh to you, you know. They will be laughing and not believing you, you see. But for the person herself or for the others, it's a sign showing that, yes, sometimes the predictions can be true. But you are absolutely right. We need to be extremely careful. And particularly when the predictions are concerning some behavior of a certain person or of us, because we have the free will. And the free will, we always can decide to do something different, and than what was the prediction was giving, you know, because a lot of people which are going exactly to these mediums, making a lot of predictions. Shall I do this? Shall I do that? Will I separate from my husband, or will I not? Or will my son pass the exam or not? This is absolutely how to say, the most dangerous things, because they are somehow delegating their free will given by God to each of us to somebody else, to a medium. And depending if the medium says yes, they will do. If they say no, they will absolutely not do, you know. So it's absolutely wrong, not only for the person herself, because the medium can mislead the person heavily, influencing negatively the free will. And the second is, it's wrong also for the medium, because he will take a big part of responsibility of the consequences of what he said. That's why I think you are totally right. We have to be extremely careful with the predictions, whether they are signed by a big name or not. Munir?
Yeah, no, I just want to highlight the importance of studying as well, Charles. Not just reading books, but studying them, understanding what is the idea behind, seeing if we accept it or not, comparing to other things as well. And also the importance of knowing these spiritist books well. Because sometimes we start reading all sorts of things, no problem. But the problem is we don't know the spiritism in its full extent. We know part of it. So we start to mix things. And then when we go to evaluate the content of a message or something, we end up making, a mess. So the importance of studying things in depth, especially for those who are mediums or dialoguers or whatever. So and know very well Spiritism. Oh, I've read once Spirit's book, or I've read half of the book, the medium's book, or it's important to study, and as you did, go back many times to check if we understood, and we have created this structure in our mind so that when we read something apart from that, we can agree or disagree or agree in parts.
Exactly. Yeah. You are right. And I will give you another example of misleading communications. For instance, an institution, spiritist institution, for instance, is going through a crisis. Spiritual influence probably is influencing this crisis and feeding it, And then one of the ways the spirits are using is one of the founder of this institution, the people who idealized it, who were really at the base of it, communicating with their signature and doing a kind of a mea culpa. Yes, I made that, but this I shouldn't have not. This I made wrong. That I made wrong, or whatsoever. So it's almost to be Machiavellic, but if you think a little bit about, if you would be a spirit trying to deviate someone from the given line, it's an excellent mean, isn't it? You go to the one, you are falsificating the identity of the one who idealized that line and saying mea culpa. And I know spiritist groups, one in particular, who received messages from Kardec, where Kardec and or Léon Denis doing their mea culpa, saying, we have been too strict, I should not have written the gospel according to Spiritism, it was a mistake, things like that, And this group is following a very particular line with how to say, rejecting all this one part, this ethical aspect of Spiritism, for instance, So it happened more recently in another institution, a well-known one, where so these are exactly the things, without being Machiavellic, think always as per the Socratic filter, by the way. Is it true? Is it good? And the third one is it the right moment, the opportune for this given moment to have this information? And if you have a doubt, if one of the questions for the response of one of these three questions is not clearly yes, raise a flag and put it in a binder and wait, or throw it to the bin, because when an institution is on crisis, for instance, when this type of things happen, there you should be sure, okay, this is an influence pushing us to the wrong directions. So stop everything, back to basics, tabula rasa, as we say in Latin, and let's come back to the basics and restart again. Elzoli?
I don't know if good morning, everybody. I don't
Morning.
sorry. I don't know if I thought about this history. So to me, I was in London, and it was before pandemic, COVID-19. And I remember I was alone, and my sister invited me to the Spiritist Center. We will study there, Medium's book. And people talked about after study, talk about this text. And they asked me if I would like to say something about text too, but my English is limited. I don't have good English. And I started to talk when I started to talk, I feel that it wasn't me because my voice, it was like a pee, pee. So, so thin and very nice, like a girl. And okay, and it was very good English. It was academic English, and when we finished, the girls asked me. My sister said, "I also, I didn't know that you have so good English as I did too." But it wasn't me. I knew she was Selma Lagerlöf, when writing the Swedish writer from another century, and she yes, and this. People there said, "Oi, it was like the Queen voice, the same voice." I say, "Yes, I know this because I know she had, but I would like it when I come back to Sweden. I will see me." Try to know me a bit more. And here in my centrum, I talk to my friend. She was talking very good English, but she was from Finland, and she said also Lee. I think it was Selma Lagerlöf, and she had one talk to her father, like a homage to her father when she had let's say prize, Nobel Prize, right that year, a long time ago, now almost 100 years ago. And yes, I find first for Google, I find it there, and it was like the same queen, the queen, Newcomb queen. So this is wonderful. I talk about that because we must confirm too if happens something with us, because the people, I think you need to know is it true or is a false false talk. But that is not false because I don't have this English. It's a wonderful English, and the voice it was on another voice. So it is a word like this right here to there.
Okay. Understood. So the fact to have the spirits talking a good English, there are a lot of spirits talking a good English. Huh? So again, it's what we saw at the beginning. They can imitate the language, huh? But then again, the truth, the discernment has to be exerted on what is the content of the message, and what is
voice.
Is it something useful for the moment or not? Huh? And these are the complementary analysis that should always be done. Huh? So it can be, but provided all the other points go also through the filter somehow. Huh?
But it was true. So that's good. Thank you, God.
Okay. So Kardec finishing then saying how many mediums have received apocryphal communications signed by Jesus, Mary, or some venerated saint. Apocryphal, you know what it is? It's false, huh? Or wrong, or cheating, or false signature, usurpation of identity. Okay. And this is true. I mean, there are even books. I know one book, Conversations with God, in 3 volumes. And when I started reading, I don't remember the author now, but it's a very long book. And when you read it, but at the beginning, but how do you know that you did talk really with God? But I'm absolutely sure I was talking with God. You know, by someone which is reasoning, do not follow such a statement without any other form of evidence, you know. And when you read some pages later on the book, you see immediately it cannot be God. So voila, the whole book then goes to recycling or whatever. And this happens incredibly a lot. In France also, there is a person I know, I knew, he was medium, writing a book given by Kardec, you know. The book title is Influence of the spirits and of the thoughts on the health. So it's a very nice subject, isn't it? But when you read the book, you know, blah, 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 you know, Kardec would have summarized the book in one sentence or one paragraph, you know. And then there are some funny things in the book. Some pages you see a lot of question mark. What is ponto de exclamação in English, Munir? How do you tell that?
Yeah, question mark. Yeah.
No, exclamação.
Exclamação.
Exclamation point. Exclamation point. I think.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation mark.
So
Exclamation mark.
So it was sometimes 1, sometimes 3, sometimes 7, you know, and some pages you had almost only interrogation and exclamation points. I was imagining Kardec using this type of things, and I asked her, why do you put 1, 3, and 7? Because 1 is normal, 3 is important, and 7 is very important. Wow. I never saw that in the books of Kardec, you know. And the books have been sold, you know. It's even, I think, a second volume came out and so on, because the publishing company are making money with such things, you know. So what is the image giving to the people? So some people can be misled, patients. They lacked exactly this discernment and reasoning here, which Kardec is advising. And the responsibility lies with the author who received these messages and published them without discernment and reasoning. Liz?
You know, I question myself. If you have, for example, a message from Kardec or a message from Jesus, a message from any spirit that someone, you know, venerates, will this spirit come and give a message to be so public and cause so, you know, a big mayhem among people? You know, this for me, it's another question. Will a spirit like that give and sign a message saying, oh, this is me, go on, and then causing a big wave of mayhem in a way? I don't think so, in my opinion.
You are totally right, Liz. And they were very clear, even in the Spiritist body of knowledge at the beginning. When something must come, it will not come through a single individual who will be the new Messiah or whatever. It will come somehow universally at a lot of places at the same time. Most of the discoveries nowadays are following this, and the Spiritist body of knowledge did not escape to it. Kardec gathered the information coming from tens of mediums, different, and also from all the correspondences he had with a lot of correspondence worldwide, and who received on their side similar or identical or very compatible information. That is how the revelation will come, and never ever through a single individual. You know, this time has finished. When you read the character of the Spiritist revelation in the section 1 of the Genesis, Kardec expressed this very clearly, and it's stating also what was my role. My role was only to codify, to compile the things, to organize them. But the ideas came from the spirits. The ideas are not my personal ideas. And that is the character of the revelations today. So this is why it's another way, Liz, another reason to be careful when some messages have these very nice signatures. Christine?
Hi, it was back to the earlier comment about books and the different information in books, and you can say now that there's been some books around for quite some time that have caused a lot of concern for one group or another, and just the interpretation of what is God, who is Jesus, who is Moses? Is Moses more important than Jesus or God? Yeah, so there's been that confusion around for some time. So even now, trying to talk to people about Spiritism, they still view it as something that's out there and not of our time, and it shouldn't even be considered. And I say, well, what do you think made all this, and how do you think we got here? And yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
Yes, thank you, Christina. You are right. And sometimes it's true when you go to a bookshop. The Spiritist books in France, you have to look the section esoterism. While Spiritist with everything but esoteric, But that is where you have to find it. And then you see so many books and so on about so many things. And okay, so you cannot block the people, whoever in the world will publish whatever he thinks and so on. So again, we need the discernment and reasoning. And now we see it more actively through the social media and the higher speed with which all this information, out of which a lot is or wrong or biased or whatever, you need to apply this discernment permanently. That's true. And then, of course, when you have opponents, they are putting this in advance. You see, you look how many contradictory ideas there are, and they are just rejecting everything. So that's why I always said we should even so put the Spirits book in those esoteric section of the bookshop, because when someone comes, you see, the mentor will put her hand on the Spirits book, on the book she needs or he needs, But if the book is not there, even the mentor cannot help. But not today, of course, he can help because everything is available for free on the internet. Liz?
Hi. We also have to ask ourselves who benefits. Which strata of the spiritual realm benefits from all this information, and why are they trying to benefit from that? And the other side of the coin is for those that are broadcasting this misinformation, like Conversations with God. I've got those 3 books. They're incredible if you want to smile, but people can believe them. So what are the consequences of that? Well, when that particular spirit who's been broadcasting them goes home, and they do their life review, they will have to pay quite a high price for misleading people or getting people onto the wrong path.
Exactly. Everyone is responsible at the end. That's clear. The spirits who gave it, the medium who transmitted it without care, and all the publisher, editors, bookshop who made money on it. And that's why Kardec, when you see, always strongly insisted to analyze who is this person who is bringing this to me now. And the evaluation of the disinterestedness of the person, is there a conflict of interest or not, was always a criteria he took very strongly into consideration. Munir?
No, just to point out that sometimes the intention of the spirit is much simpler than that. It's not to get things published or a large number of people convinced of what he or she is saying, but actually to boost the ego of the medium or perhaps the mediumship group. And that, I believe, we see more often when the spirit signs and then the medium says, "Oh, I'm special because I'm receiving messages from so and so." It may not even go beyond the group, the mediumship group, but the work may be compromised by accepting that as a special group or a special medium or whatever.
Exactly, yes. And this is one more reason why alone we can be misled. Okay, a group, it's already a little bit more difficult to be a whole group misled, but it happens as well.
Yeah.
But then several groups with linked together and ask him in case of doubt or whatever, That gives them much more security on this side, to avoid to be misled. So it's what we always say, be careful, not how to say. It's always good to be several people to analyze the communications and to check whether there is a doubt. And it's exactly the next section, distinguishing between good and evil spirit. Everything is about this. Is the spirit who gives this communication a good one or not? And so let's start reading what Kardec is saying about this. If the perfect identification of spirits is in many cases a secondary, unimportant issue, the same cannot be said concerning the distinction between good and evil spirits. You see? So this is what we have seen also in the last weeks. Whether if the message is good, if it's Saint Jesus or Peter or Paul or whoever, or Stephen, doesn't matter. The message is good. The individuality of the spirits is then getting lost in their goodness, because they will, even with different individualities, they will say the same things, So in most of the cases, and if the message is not good, it's the same. You can have whatever signature, the message will not be good. I think Kardec used even the image. If you have a bad wine, putting a very nice label on it will not make it a good wine. If the wine is bad, it is bad, full stop. So this is what we have to evaluate. And he's saying, so we just need to be able to do the distinction between good and evil spirits by the communications they gave. Are these communications good or not? To recognize the trees by the fruits the trees is giving. Okay. We may be indifferent as to their individuality, but never their quality. In every instructive communication, this is a point upon which we must concentrate our attention, since only it can provide us with a measure of confidence that we can put in the manifesting spirit, no matter what name it has assumed. If the is the spirit who manifested itself good or evil, to what degree of the hierarchy does it belong? That is a crucial question. And Kardec is here sending to the item 10 or item 100 of the Spirit's book, where he's describing the spirit hierarchy. These 3 big classes and 10 subclasses of spirits, from the from the bottom up to the highest level of evolution. And in this item 10, he gives the characteristics of each of the class. So by analyzing the content of the message, you can recognize the type of characteristic which is being transmitted, and then have an idea whether the spirit is a good one or not. And if it's not a good one, of course, you can still use the information. For instance, some spirits, when you look to the second part of the heaven and hell, you have some communications of spirits which are in a bad condition after passing away, which is very instructive for us. So even if the spirits are not good, it's interesting, and it brings us a lot of things of reading and studying what they transmitted. But if a spirit which is not good is transmitting things, trying to cheat us, here you have to say, stop. I do not follow him in this track. And that is why this distinction between good and evil spirits is much more fundamental than looking exactly if it is exactly this person or not. Okay. And even here on Earth, you have a lot of people who look very good. Oh, this person is very nice and so on. But sometimes we can also be misled. You have people who are very kind and so on, but with bad intentions. The wolves which are hiding them under the bezerro, comment se dit in English? The sheep, no?
Kath.
Yes. So you see, the hypocrisy, we are not always able to distinguish amongst us incarnated. And I think most of you probably have gone through the experience of seeing a person which is very nice and so on. You even deposited some trust in this person, and this person strongly deceived you later on. So this is something that happens a lot in our world. But in the spirit worlds, it doesn't happen like this. The spirits can use the same hypocrisy towards us, but within the spiritual world, where everything is much more transparent, there the hypocrisy does not exist. But in our world, and even in the communication between the spiritual world and our world, we should be aware that this hypocrisy exists. So that's why we have to make this distinction to see what type of spirit it is. Liz?
We need to be aware of a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yes.
Just like the narcissists and the psychopaths here, don those images for, fooling people. It doesn't mean it stops here. And that is their modus operandi. They come across as something they're absolutely not.
Exactly. They know how to seduce. They know even sometimes how to hypnotize you, So all the care is good to have, particularly when we have to deal with such person. I forgot to change my name, sorry. Doesn't work. Okay, here it is. Okay, 263. As we have stated, we judge spirits by their language in the same way as we do people. Let us suppose that a man received 20 letters from persons he doesn't know. By their style, ideas, and numerous characteristics, he will be able to tell which are educated, which are uneducated, which are polite or impolite, superficial, profound, frivolous, proud, serious, sentimental, etc. The same applies with two spirits. You see, when you analyze a letter, somebody is strongly requesting, asking you to do something. Okay. Bon, why, how? Authoritarian. From analyzing, this is exactly what you have to analyze in the text. And when you see the style, the way to express the insistence in the ideas, you see immediately you have ideas of who is then writing you this letter or who is writing that message. We should regard them as unknown pen pals and ask ourselves what we would think of their knowledge and character if they stated or wrote such things. We can state as an invariable rule without exceptions that the language of the spirits always corresponds to their degree of evolution. So you put it in italics because it's one of the most important points here, okay, in this section. Truly high-order spirits do not limit themselves to saying only good things, but they say them in terms that absolutely exclude any trivialness. Okay? No matter how good statements may appear to be, if they are stained with a single expression of low quality, it provides us with an unquestionable sign of inferiority, and even more so if the communication offends social values because of its grossness. So you see, this is something we can do at any moment, you agree? It's just a question of common sense. The problem is sometimes we have also some imperfections, and some imperfection may not, shock us or call our attention as much as it should. But what he's advising here is relatively simple and straightforward to do. Yasmin?
Sorry. Sorry. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Charles, I have a question about that language quality. For example, with generations and the time, some expressions might change, and sometimes some things that even within the French language, there are expressions depending on the north or south of Europe. The signification may change. So, and sometimes some things that may seem vulgar, but bad to some people. For example, in north of France might be okay in south of France. So, and for example, an old word, a new word for young people might sound awful for older people. So how can we do with that? I mean, how can we do?
You have to consider the time, the place, and the culture where it has been given. You know, it's exactly what you say. You have to take this into consideration, and then you make the difference. But again, what we can say is a good spirit. If he wants to give a message, let's say to the whole France, he will not use an expression of north of France which can shock the south of France. He will avoid that, and he will use an expression that will be good both for North France and south of France. You know, so the good spirits, they will always find a way to express them in order to be neutral, and as much as possible. Because of course, when you read Kardec today, we can say, it's really very Catholically or religiously or Christianly colored. Yes, true. So it's one of the problems, by the way, of the Kardec's books, which today are rejected by some part of the population in France, at least, I think in whole Europe, because of this, because the people rejected much stronger the religion in the 160 years of the interval than they did reject at the time of Kardec. So it is a problem exactly like this. So that's why when we read the books of Kardec, we always have to place ourselves into the context of that time and to understand what is the content of the message rather than the form, which may not be 100% up to date. And that's why you have other authors like Léon Denis, who wrote 50 years later, so it's a little bit more recent, or even contemporary authors who are writing the same things, but with the language of today. The problem with this is you have people like this group I mentioned at the beginning. They wrote a book entitled The New Spirits Book. But sincerely, when I read this New Spirits book, in terms of content, in terms of form, it's okay. But in terms of content, I prefer the old one, the original one, by far, because they are saying so many things which makes no sense. So by willing to change the forms, they changed also the content, and that is then going too far, you know. So it's very difficult to all these questions. That's why we still stick to the Kardec's book as they have been written. We can put a disclaimer at the beginning of the book by be careful. For instance, when he talks about races, you know, some things which today appear racist, but which were admitted by science at that time, you know. So you always have to go, what was the intention? Was the intention to be racist? No, absolutely not. That's the opposite. Because Spiritism always said the same spirits are incarnating in all the different ethnias around the world. So the huge, strong arguments against racism was very clear since the beginning. But I think it's our time. Yes, I think even we passed 1 minute or 3 minutes. So we will stop here. Huh? So thank you all for your presence, and hope I did not bother you too much. Usually it's Guillaume. Guillaume could not be here today, but okay. So we are trying to do our best. So all the best for all of you. Have a nice Saturday, and also may God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Sharon.
you.